Welcome everyone to episode 2 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed El Houli, and my co-host, who joins me every single week with a huge smile, is Mr. Tony Sheehan. Tony, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, Ahmed. It's great to be back on Raw Sports and really looking forward to getting stuck in today.
Wow, lots to talk about, Tones. Lots to talk about. A lot happening. Our favourite conversation, the AFL.
Everybody's favourite conversation.
Hey?
Everybody's favourite conversation.
Especially in this country. The AFL, another idea, another concept. Whether you're going to like it or not is a different story. I'm always open to new ideas. The AFL is pretty much looking at introducing an AFL wild card round. Incoming CEO has pretty much said, hang on a second, folks. We've been doing this for 100 years. Let's do it differently. They want to use the pre-finals bye, right? And have like a wild card round where 7th and 10th play each other and 8th and 9th play each other. Then that'll force those two teams to pretty much then make up the rest of the 8. So then you got the top 6, and then you got 2 spots left, and then they're pretty much playing golf for those 2 spots. So I think that's very exciting. I think that's very entertaining. And on a week where there's no other sport on, or there's no other AFL on, why not? Why not put something on for the fans that's different?
Well, look, I know you and I have opposing views on a lot of subjects, but I think it actually could work. And I think incoming AFL CEO Andrew Dillon has obviously thought long and hard about this. He's been at the league for at least a decade, and this provides something new, a little bit of excitement, because I think the pre-finals week off, it really loses momentum. And I think the AFL has hopefully learned through the bye rounds throughout the middle of the season, which we touched upon last week, was probably considered a failure. You lose momentum. The media doesn't like it. The fans don't like it. I think if you can actually hold 2 games for the final 2 spots in the 8, I think then that draws a lot of other fans to go to the game. So if they're held in Melbourne, which they should be, the MCG, it could actually drive, crowds of 75 to 80,000 and a lot of theatre goers.
Yeah, I reckon this is a bit sneaky by Andrew Dillon. I mean, where's this idea been all this time?
Well, but they've only been having pre-finals buys for, 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, but he's obviously thought about it for a long time and thought, oh yeah, one day when I'll get the top job, I'll introduce it. That's my mark left on the game. Obviously, I'm assuming here, but yeah, I mean, I really like the idea. I think it brings a lot of excitement. I think it will 100% get clubs a lot more interested, because now you can pretty much play finals even if you finish 10th.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Richmond introduced it.
The way they're going to probably need it. But yeah, I mean,
or Carlton, or the GWS Giants.
I mean, Carlton for sure needs it, because they can't get, even based off their last 6 games, they're still going to struggle to get there. But anyway, that's not the conversation. What I'm saying is that it's a brilliant idea. I really like it. I think it brings anticipation, it brings excitement, it brings entertainment, and I think it's another reason for fans to flock the MCG.
Yeah, look, you know what? I'm not going to argue this for the sake of arguing. I actually agree with you, Ahmed, and I think it is a good idea.
Well, I better be careful. There must be fridges falling from the sky, because I tell you, it's not very common that this happens. All right, great start. Moving on, we have new kings. Well, we have a new king and a queen of the court in Wimbledon. I think this is the start of a new era. I think this is the introduction to the era of Carlos Alcaraz, who Novak Djokovic pretty much came out and said, I've never seen anybody play like that before. And this is a guy who's broken the record for Grand Slam titles. He's played the best of the best. For him to come and say that is pretty big, in my opinion. Marketa von Drusova, congratulations to her. Great win, great victory. What are your thoughts on those comments, mate?
In regards to Novak Djokovic, to me, he is the best player of all time. And, I know Roger Federer is loved by the fans and he has an enormous amount of cachet with the public, but no one can go past Novak Djokovic. I know his on-court persona has maybe turned a few people off, and certainly through his anti-COVID stance, that also probably drove a wedge between him and the fans, or at least some fans. But to me, this guy, I don't think there's ever going to be anybody who will supersede him as the best player of all time. And in regards to his comments about Carlos, the 25-year-old Spaniard, well, I would have loved, as a tennis-loving person, that Novak could have gone out with another Wimbledon win. But this guy has been, at the top of his craft. I think he's been number one since prior to the Australian Open earlier this year. He's just a gun. And I think he's the new face of tennis. I'd seriously like to know whether a 25-year-old Spaniard who speaks broken English is going to be the face of tennis moving forward.
Yeah, why not? I mean, his English can only get stronger. And yeah, that's pretty much an easy fix. I mean, Rafael Nadal isn't the greatest English speaker,
but he's a fan favourite.
Yeah, because of his performance on the court.
Yeah, but also I think he's quite self-deprecating when he's interviewed post-game and in press conferences. The girls love him, the guys want to be him. So I think I'd like to see how Carlos merges or morphs into the world number one, and it looks like he's going to be in this position for quite some time to come. Good luck to him. He played a fantastic game, although, I watched the first two sets Sunday night here in Sydney, and I thought with Novak's scintillating display in the first set, 6-1, and Carlos looked like he was gone for all money, and suddenly it's gone to 5 sets, and he's beaten the best of all time. Good on him. But again, I'd like to see how tennis goes from here on in.
We shall wait and see. All right, moving on. Women's World Cup is down under, our part of the world. Good start in Australia. They've sold 1.5 million plus tickets. Their game last week had over 50,000 people at it. New Zealand, not so much. I mean, they got 300,000 tickets that they haven't sold, and they've struggled. They've really struggled in New Zealand.
Yep.
Big conversation this week, just like every single time there's a female major event, is equal pay. They want to be paid like the men, but from what we're seeing, they don't generate the same amount of revenue. You had FIFA really struggling to sell off their rights in Europe, and they even threatened the blackout if they didn't get the value that they wanted, and they still fell 100 million short. So what do we do? Like, where are we with female sports? I mean, we want everybody to have a chance to play and perform and give it their best, but we also have to run businesses here. So the biggest problem with society in today's world is everybody's looking for the bloody handout, right? Not many people want to actually work for it. And it's translating into these leagues and sports and codes, and it's just getting ridiculous. Your thoughts?
Well, are we specifying the fact that Australian female soccer players, led by Sam Kerr, have come out demanding equal pay to the men?
If you want.
Well, if that's what you're alluding to, Sam Kerr is the best player in the world. She's the face of the computer game. I think it's FIFA FPK.
Best female player in the world, yeah.
Yes, without a doubt. And the beauty of it is she's a West Australian. She's sensational. But women have been playing professional sport for such a short amount of time. I'm not sure that all sports are ready to have equilibrium in the pay structure. Tennis, yes, but the women play 3/4 of the length of games that men do. So whereas the women's final Saturday night in London, which was won by Vondrousova, she played 2 sets, 6-4, 6-4, whereas Novak Djokovic and Alcaraz played 5.
Yeah.
So, and it's equal prize money.
So
I think that sports such as soccer, AFL, NRL, I think they need to build up a cachet of ratings, of fans, and then maybe in 5 to 10 years' time, then they can pitch for equilibrium.
So the biggest issue here is that what needs to be understood is that male players are not just paid because they're men, right? They're not paid more just because they're literally men. No, this is not the problem here. They're paid more because they attract a lot of attention. The FIFA World Cup, you couldn't get a ticket months out, right? Let's just be clear. And the whole world was watching. Half of Australia's not even watching here, right?
No. And
so at the end of the day, we have to start working with what we have in front of us, and yes, give them more, help them with resources. But it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So we can't just go spend all this bloody money on the league that's losing money year after year after year. And, it's just a leaking bucket. You got to get there gradually, step by step.
Yeah, incremental.
And that helps. Yeah, incremental improvements, incremental steps. That also works in strengthening and solidifying the actual league, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, if you have a huge cash injection, right, and there's no way to sustain those revenues because nobody's going to keep throwing money at something that's constantly leaking from the bottom. Nobody keeps filling a bucket, hey?
No, well, women's sport now is different. So it will be the governments and the organisations around the globe will throw as much money as needed to make women's sport sustainable because it's been an agenda-driven situation for
Tony,
years.
Look at the world we live in. The Victorian government just cancelled the Commonwealth Games, for God's sake. We are going through a global financial disaster. There's only so much before people are going to turn around and say, hang on a second, you're putting all this money on female sports. We don't have money to turn on our heaters.
No, the fans don't, but the rich will get richer through this crisis.
It's got nothing to do with that at this point. What I'm trying to say to you is only so much that you can put in to something that's leaking. There's nothing wrong with allocating resources to female women's sports. There's nothing wrong with it. What we're trying to say is it's got to be done over a period of time, step by step. Rome wasn't built in one day, right? It takes time. So these men been playing for 100 years. Play for 100 years and get as much as the men, right? So moral of the story, it's step by step, step by step. We get stronger every single year. We increase our revenue channels. We increase our TV rights. We diversify our revenue channels, and we build the game. You don't build the game by throwing tons of cash at something, and the next year you're going to have to do the same thing. When the world's going through a huge crisis, people can't pay their bills, people can't turn on their heaters. What the hell? It doesn't make sense. So anyway.
No, by extension of what you're saying, female athletes are not paid what they should be. So they should be semi-professional, if not professional. Every woman on a professional sports list should be paid enough so that they don't have to take another job.
Correct.
But they shouldn't, in all sports, not every sport, should have the same amount of pay as the men. They haven't earned it as yet. I'm not saying that they won't, but as you said, it needs to be incremental so that the Sam Kerrs in 5 years' time could be earning something the equivalent of like the men in the EPL.
Yeah, exactly. If they garner the same attention, that's what it comes down to.
No, well, maybe they won't. But I mean, look at the AFL, look at the NRL. I mean, sometimes the games are so hard to watch. It's been a game in the AFL where I think one team scored 1 point for an entire game.
and they're giving away free tickets. So anyway, all right, moving on. We've just witnessed and observed the NRL State of Origin. 3 games, won by Queensland again. New South Wales,
yes.
Yep. New South Wales has won the last game. In terms of the TV ratings, the first 2 did well. The last one dropped off, understandably, because of, it's done and dusted.
It was a dead rubber.
Yeah, exactly. So what were your thoughts on the series overall?
Look, Queensland is just very well coached by Billy Slater. They are just a supreme outfit. And I really feel for Freddie Fittler and the Blues. Maybe is it time to reconsider State of Origin? I know that as hard as that is to even consider, is it on the decline? Look, I probably shouldn't say that because it drives so much to the New South Wales and Queensland economies. And also a lot of people in Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia are actually quite big on the sport because it's annually you play 3 games. It's just unfortunate that New South Wales didn't put on a good enough showing in Game 2 to make it competitive for Game 3. Yes, New South Wales won Game 3 here in Sydney, but it was a hollow victory because at the end of the game, Daly Cherry-Evans, the captain of Queensland, held up the trophy for winning the series.
Yeah, it was pretty much a pointless game, really. But, that's what it is. The economic value and what it brings to the sport and so on and so on is huge. So,
it is.
But the show must go on.
Yeah, but I was talking to people the other day in Sydney, and they said it actually was a real event in previous years. And I think leading up to COVID, the amount of viewers and attendees and people who would turn it into an event and go out to pubs and watch it was amazing. It was astronomical to the New South Wales and Queensland governments and also to Channel 9 and Fox and the ratings. To Channel 9 and its ratings. But it just seems to be that it doesn't have the same impetus that it used to have on the public. That's all I'm saying.
Interesting perspective. Interesting. All right. We'll keep going. We'll stay in NRL. James Tedesco, Sydney Roosters captain, played in State of Origin, then went on holiday with his wife, and he missed his game for the Roosters as a captain. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this was brought up in the News Corp papers this week, and there was a real comparison made. So James Tedesco has been the captain of the Blues for the past 3 games and previous years, and he's been a fantastic captain. But considering the effect that the State of Origin has had on his body, he felt the need to get away last weekend, and he and his wife went to Byron Bay. But by comparison, Daly Cherry-Evans, who captained Queensland, pulled on the boots for Manly on the weekend, and there was no complaints made there. So there was the comparison made that saying, well, James, yes, we understand that you're feeling the effects of the State of Origin. Your body needs a rest. Your mind needs a rest considering the external and internal pressures. But could you have turned up to the Roosters Storm game at the SCG on the weekend?
Maybe he should have.
Well, maybe he should have. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually would have. Yeah, because playing finals, ending the season well, being there for your teammates is what the regular season is all about.
Well, could this be a defining moment, Ahmed? And in terms of the Roosters maybe penalising James at the end of the season and withdrawing his captaincy or asking him to take a break?
But they clearly gave him the okay, though.
Well, what if one of your best players turns around and says, I'm mentally spent, I need to get out of Sydney because I am just exhausted?
Well, why do you play Origin then? Well,
because you're playing for your state and it's considered so high.
If you're mentally spent, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Don't play Origin.
No, I know, but I think clubs love their players to be representative of the state where they're from. But at the same time, if it affects the ability to then get back up and play for your club in order to win the NRL Premiership, I think clubs are starting to take the AFL line, whereas is representative football worthwhile?
You reckon?
Well, I think that it's in the back of their mind. Well, the AFL no longer plays representative football.
I wish they did.
Well, maybe a lot of people do, but I think that the clubs went to the AFL and said, we don't want our best players getting injured in the State of Origin series, which will affect our run at a premiership.
I hear you, but it's an awesome concept, though.
Yeah, as long as it's done properly.
Generates a lot of money. Does that for sure.
Yeah, as I said, as long as it's done properly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's keep moving. Australian coverage of sport by these media outlets. Have they dropped the ball, Tony?
Are you asking how, or have they?
Have they? And then how?
Well, I think so. And I'll give you an example, Ahmed. I woke up Monday morning after Wimbledon. I was up at around 5 a.m. and I was looking to the results for Wimbledon, for the men's final. And my go-to is usually the Herald Sun because it has provided sports results for the best part of, 5, 6, 7 decades for many people around the world. And I had to go to its competitor, The Age, at 5:38 a.m. I think they had posted the results that Carlos Alcaraz was the winner. I then went to the Daily Mail. They had posted results that Carlos Alcaraz was the winner. And then I went to the Daily Telegraph. They posted results, but the Herald Sun waited until 9:40 a.m. to post the results of Wimbledon. Now, to me, yes, I've had a great affiliation with News Corp, particularly the Herald Sun, but I just feel that their online component is beginning to lack. Where we go for all of our sports results and also news is no longer the premium outlets that you're going to get everything first.
But why is that happening is the real question. Why is this occurring?
Look, there's many theories. I think one of them being the Daily Mail is actually outstripping them for eyeballs. And maybe, look, this is only a conspiracy theory, but is News Corp looking to have the Daily Telegraph as its number one online outlet with news.com.au and maybe not injecting as much money and effort into its other mastheads, be it the Herald Sun, be it the Adelaide Advertiser, be it the Courier Mail in Brisbane or Western Australia?
So one thing for sure is the Daily Telegraph has picked up their online game. If you look at what they're doing on TikTok and all these other platforms, they're 100% doing that.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's interesting. In terms of Fox Sports as well, like from what I'm hearing, that a lot of these games, the commentary team is not even on site. There's only like 1 or 2 people on site. So that's also changed.
COVID, yeah.
Yeah, so that's also changed a lot, and they reckon that it worked during COVID, and they reckon that it's working. It worked, so why wouldn't they keep doing it?
Then it becomes a cost-cutting measure, and if they can do it with one commentator at the ground and one boundary rider, and then 2 special comments persons in the Melbourne studio, they seem to think it's valid.
Exactly. So interesting.
Well, what's your point?
Well, me personally, I reckon that my concern is why this cost cutting is actually occurring. So my concern is I always look at how do I go to the root of the problem, understand what the root of the problem is, and then pretty much go through and solve the problem. And the fact that these guys are cutting costs so much really concerns me. But then they turn around and they sign these deals worth $4 or $5 billion over 6-7 years. Like, I just don't get it. It's just really, really interesting.
And did you notice or know that the AFL went to Channel 7 and said, you are not doing any external footballing programs, bar the front bar, about the AFL? So they've dropped Talking Footy, they've dropped Game Day, and 1 or 2 others from it, and Talking Footy from its lineup. And the AFL is asking, how can the commercial free-to-air broadcaster of the AFL, which has injected billions of dollars into its rights, not then invest in analytical talk programs?
Okay. But why? What's the reasoning here?
Well, they're saying they're going to wait until next year until the new broadcast rights deal begins. But to me, it doesn't make sense. Channel 9 doesn't have the rights, and they lead the talk show programs every week with Footy Classified times 2 programs on a Monday and Wednesday, the very popular Sunday Footy Show, and one other which escapes me. But I mean, Channel 9's investment into the AFL product has been supreme, and I'm just worried about Channel 7 in terms of its outdated thinking in regards to being football analysts.
Wow, really interesting. Really, really interesting.
Well, no longer a network's sending entire production teams to Wimbledon or the French Open or to the US Open. They're taking a local feed and having their expert commentators back in the studio in Sydney commentating as the AFL does. I mean, yes, it's going to save an enormous amount of money, but what about the professionalism? Or is it just the way of the future?
From the sounds of things, it is. It really is.
Well, what about boxing in terms of Fox Sports and Main Event? Don't we historically send a Ben Damon and a Jeff Fennick internationally to cover the biggest fights that involve us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go. So why is boxing any different to any of the other major sports?
It's very different. I can go on a tangent there. It's very different in many different ways. But the thing is, the structure of boxing is very, very different. It's just like what I don't understand is that out of all the cost-cutting measures they can have and do and make, why would they go after the one thing that people love, which is the commentary, that the live feeling? You can almost tell that it's been commentated from not from the actual ground, because at the ground you hear all these noises and backgrounds and screaming and yelling and whatever. But it's just I'm just seeing that live experience should be moving forward, and I honestly believe it's gone backwards in terms of that feeling that we used to have and feel watching this. So boxing is very different. You have 4 or 5 events a year. The spend isn't the same. The caliber of the commentators aren't paid the same, so on, so on. With these league sports, a lot more volume, a lot more pay, a lot more recognition of hierarchy. So it is more expensive. But I just feel like that once you start that cost cutting, you sort of start losing that personal touch. There's a lot more other things that they can cut. I
totally agree. It's a very good point. And by extension of that, I think that using Channel 7 as an example, so they should use its commentary team. If they have to travel for a Friday night, go to Sydney. And if they want to cut costs, have dedicated commentators in Adelaide, Brisbane, and Perth, so that the other people don't have to travel.
Exactly, because there's plenty of ex-AFL players that could fill in all those states.
No, exactly. And you're right. I think it lessens the product when you have, for example, on Fox Sports, when they often use commentators standing in a studio with an enormous screen behind them, commentating off the screen with one commentator, I think, who was actually at the ground with a boundary rider. Maybe it just, and I know it's 2023 and I know it's a new world of media, but it just lacks that commonality, that touch that we want to have where the people are at the ground.
Absolutely, 100%. All right. Well, at the moment, I think things are going to stay the way they are for a while, and it's going to take something extravagant to get things changed, in my opinion, because these guys are all about cost cutting. Leo Messi, for some he's the GOAT, arrives in Miami. Into Miami, pretty much.
Well, before you go on, explain to all our viewers, for those that minute amount of people who don't know who Lionel Messi is, explain who he is.
He's the second greatest football player of our time.
Well, who's first?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's debatable. I mean, some would reverse that order, but Lionel Messi is
some are going to come after me now. But
yeah, correct. The Argentinian.
The little Argentinian who was given no hope of playing professional football was taken up at 14 years old by Barcelona, or 12 years old. They paid for his medical treatment. They looked after him, and it's turned out to be one of the greatest players in history. This guy is unbelievable. He's won everything. What's happened now, he's left Europe and he's gone on to play into Miami, a club that's owned by David Beckham. So overnight was the official announcement, unveiling of Lionel Messi in Miami. You had a packed out crowd. You had jerseys outside selling for $200 a pop, selling out.
Jersey outside where?
Outside the stadium.
Yeah, so just explain to the viewers that he was officially unveiled as Inter Miami's new player at the Miami Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. But anyway, I'll say it again. Lionel Messi was introduced to the people of Miami at the Inter Miami FC Stadium, which is owned by David Beckham, last night in front of a packed out stadium, and the noise was unbelievable.
Well, give us an estimate on how many people you think were there in the crowd.
There was about 40,000 people there last night.
Just to announce Lionel Messi putting on a new jersey for Inter Miami.
Yes, it was a sellout. There was 40,000 people there. They were selling jerseys outside the stadium for $200 a jersey, and they sold out. 3.5 billion views globally.
That is incredible.
3.5 billion, right? This is going to be an absolute bonanza.
Well,
because
you're a football analyst, and we know that Cristiano Ronaldo recently signed with a Saudi Arabian team.
Al Nassr.
So by comparison, what was the bigger announcement?
So Cristiano, from memory, reached over 4 billion globally.
Wow. These numbers are astronomical.
Yeah. And in every single game that Cristiano plays now, he has 40 media outlets from around the world covering those games. 40. Yeah. Right? So that just explains the caliber of these two countries. I call them countries because they are. These guys are continents on their own. The amount of distribution these guys have is ridiculous.
They could change the GDP of each country.
Exactly. So anyway, I'll go a bit more into the details. So this 2.5-year contract, Lionel Messi will earn $150 million. He'll be paid by the club.
Yep.
He'll be paid by the league, and he'll be paid by the broadcasters. He'll also be paid by Adidas as their main sponsor from jersey sales and so on. The other thing that will be given to him as well is he'll be offered stake equity in either Inter Miami or the opportunity to open up an expansion club in the MLS, which is the league that he's playing into. Which right now, an expansion club in the MLS is valued at $500 million.
Wow, 500 million.
Yeah, 3 months ago, an Egyptian billionaire introduced a team in San Diego. He paid $500 million for that team.
So why these oil barons and these very, very wealthy businessmen, why are they injecting so much money into America's football, soccer business? Because
the American landscape as a market, it's the center of the world. Everybody wants to be in that market, right? So there's a multitude of things. When people buy teams, they look at the growth of the team, they look at the market size, they look at the value of the assets of the team. And because it's America and because these are key cities, the value of the assets of the team are huge. The other thing is the potential market size and upside is huge. The other thing is there's no relegation in the MLS, so you can't go down, right? So the value of the teams every year goes up because there's scarcity.
Yep.
Right. And in today's world, sporting teams are the most valued alternative assets. Everybody's trying to buy a sports team, right? In today's world, which is looked at as a diversification of their investment. It's a safe investment,
Yep.
right? Because it's continuously going up. So, hence why there's so much buzz, there's so much excitement around Messi, around the opportunity at hand. But you look at the numbers, they're astronomical. He turned down $400 million a year from Saudi Arabia.
Who, Messi?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe it was a standard of living.
Well, he said that he's missed out a lot on his kids' schooling.
Yep.
Miami's close to South America. His family can come in and out easily.
Yep.
And he can live for example, early in the week he was shopping at a supermarket called Publix in Miami, and he wasn't getting bombarded by people. People taking photos, but he's living a semi-normal life.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a big country. So yeah, that's pretty much the overall summary of Messi and his introduction to the local Miami crowd.
Yeah, so tell everybody when his first game is, Ahmed.
July 21st.
And what
do you
expect the numbers to be?
So what's happened is all the games that he's playing in have gone up 1,000%. Ticket prices.
Ticket sales, yep.
Ticket sales. They've gone up 1,000%. And even what's happened is this guy is that attractive to the local market. The away teams are reaping the benefits as well.
Yep.
Because their ticket prices as well have gone up 8 times, 10 times, right? So everybody's winning here. That's why everybody was so eager for him to come, because this money, that the revenue that he's bringing is not only for Inter Miami, he's bringing for the whole league. Because now everywhere he goes to play, people are fighting over tickets. Doesn't matter whether they go for that team or not.
Yep.
They just want to watch him.
It's huge, and we can't wait. So it's July 21, his first game.
Correct.
And where can people watch it? Do you know?
Yes, Apple TV exclusively.
Oh, fantastic.
Apple TV did a $2.5 billion deal with the MLS last year.
Yep.
$250 million a year. And I think it's going to pay off in the next couple of years because
love it.
Because they've signed Leo Messi. So anyway, unbelievable announcement, unbelievable deal. All the best to him. Let's keep going. New South Wales Boxing Commission denies Fidel Tariq of being ringside for a boxer that he manages, Paulo Owokuso. I hope I said that right, because that was really difficult to say. Or Kuso. So pretty much the New South Wales Combat Sports Authority has banned Fidel because of his previous links to the Comanchero bikie gang. As everyone knows, and anybody who turns on a TV or jumps on TikTok or any social media platform, the current organised crime rings in New South Wales at the moment are causing governments, police, whatever, a lot of headaches. So
it's the Wild West.
Yep, they're in the spotlight. They're going after them full force, raids every day, arrests every day, and they're cutting them out of every single level of society that they can cut them out from. So he's a victim of that. I don't know if he's a victim, but he's part of the collateral damage of that. Whether he is or isn't a bikie still, that's his business. But he's been banned. They don't want him anywhere near ringside. His corner, he can be in the crowd, but credit to the boxer, he stuck by him. He said, no, I still want him to be my advisor, my manager. He was loyal to me. I'm loyal to him. What are your thoughts, buddy?
It's a really interesting one, and I was actually one prior to our live broadcast this morning to actually bring this up, and I think it is. Look, I don't know, but boxing is littered with people from the underworld and average people, and sorry, I shouldn't say average people, but it is littered with people who have a checkered past. So why is Fidel any different to anybody else in terms of what is stopping Fidel from being ringside for his client's fight? I mean, I'm not sure he can do much for.
I can tell you why. I can tell you why.
Well, tell us.
So in the past, the Combat Authority and New South Wales Police have banned certain figures from attending certain fight nights in certain places.
Yep.
And why? Because they've heard that certain things were going to go down in those places.
In terms of what? In terms of wars?
Yeah, violence and shootings and so on. Whether he's in there or in the corner makes no difference, in my opinion. Well, he could, because he might end up on TV. But he could be less disruptive if he's in the crowd or in the venue. But a lot of the times, they keep certain people out because they've heard something. Something's coming to that person. And there could be a threat or something here that they're trying to protect him from, or they're trying to protect the event from. So he starts in the corner, then they eventually say the whole venue, right?
Yep.
So that's where it starts. As it gets closer to the night, they'll say, no, you're too much of a risk. You can't attend. So that's usually what they do. And I've seen it happen multiple times.
So you're saying that there is a potential danger to the public with Fidel being ringside?
I'm saying there could be, as to why they're taking this stance.
Yeah. Look, I don't know his current situation in terms of his affiliation.
Me too.
If he's a law-abiding citizen, I'm not sure why he shouldn't be allowed to be ringside for his client's fight.
Makes two of us. But I'm saying this potential reason why he's been banned from being ringside. I think it will end up eventuating into a situation where he's banned from the whole event, if I'm going to be honest with you. They just haven't announced it yet.
You don't think the Combat Sports Commission will then turn around and feel like they need to be doing something in case something bad happens, and said, well, we did actually warn the public and or the police that this could happen? Or, I mean, are they only doing their job, or is it something more sinister?
I think they're only doing their job, because I think they're taking precautionary measures. I don't think it's anything personal, because he's been involved in many fights before. Like, he's promoted fights.
Yeah. Are you familiar with him?
Not personally, but I've seen him around. Like, I've heard of him. If you follow boxing in Australia, you know who Fidel is, right? So that's what it comes down to. It comes down to, like, if you've let somebody in the past. He was part of Wild Will's corner for many, many years.
Wild Will who?
Wild Will Tomlinson.
Gotcha.
Right? He was part of that corner for many, many years. Why let him be there for so long and all of a sudden just pull him out, right? So anyway, I think they're just trying to take precautionary measures, because at the moment New South Wales is very hot. And I think it will eventuate to a point where they'll say to him, you're too much of a risk. You can't attend the event.
You know what? That's a really good suggestion by you. I didn't think lateral enough, but maybe you've come up with a theory that may just have some legs, in terms of if he's affiliated with certain people and he surrounds himself with certain people, and considering how hot the Sydney landscape is, maybe you're right. We're not deducing anything or suggesting anything, but it's a theory that could have some legs.
Well, this happened in the past, so we're just bringing back history. That's all we're saying. We're referencing history.
Yeah,
no more, no less.
Yes, exactly. No, it's a good theory. I like it, and let's move on.
All right, so that's pretty much it for today. I know you had a couple of things that you wanted to quickly squeeze by.
Oh, just one thing I wanted to say is AFL legend Wayne Carey. He is entering hospital in Melbourne this afternoon for a long-awaited shoulder replacement. So we wish him well with that. He'll be operated on tomorrow morning by the great Greg Hoy, and we wish him a speedy recovery.
Absolutely. The Duck, we wish you the speediest of recoveries. For everybody else, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Tony. As always, every week, mate, you're an absolute legend. And for everyone out there, take care, everyone. We'll catch you all next week.
Thanks, Albert. look forward to another episode of Raw Sports in a week's time.